What is going on, guys? What is going on, 27 Squad? Welcome back into another video, and this is going to be a podcast for those of you guys that are listening on any sort of different platform like Spotify maybe, or maybe you're listening on YouTube and not quite paying attention to the video, and you don't really need to pay attention to the video. This is going to be a podcast. I don't know how long this is going to go. I got a couple of topics here I want to talk about. This is all going to be one take. The full podcast will be uploaded to Spotify and YouTube, and the clips of the podcast will be uploaded to YouTube, and possibly some editing will be involved as it will be in a video format. So basically, welcome to the Undrafted Analysts podcast, guys. This is something I've been trying to do for years now. I came up with the name years ago and never really got around to doing it because I didn't really know how I wanted the format to be kind of put out there, how I wanted to sort of brand it out there. And I guess I really take a lot of the ideas and the kind of format from Strong Opinion Sports or Zach Schaumler. Huge fan of his podcast. Huge fan of his football takes and the way he does things on YouTube. So this is pretty much going to be something like that. So you'll see the podcast uploaded in full, and also you'll see some podcast clips as well. So this is where we just banter about NFL topics. So if you guys are enjoying the podcast, you guys enjoying listening to the podcast, like I said, you can listen to Spotify or YouTube. If you guys are enjoying this podcast, you guys can leave your own topics in the comment section. DM me, tweet me, send me clips, send me links to things, and we'll talk about it on the podcast. This is something I want to do about once or twice a week to pretty much just gather my thoughts on all NFL topics. As my Giants channel, it's more predicated towards the Giants. So I do want to be more NFL general, as I've always tried to do. That's why I made this channel, was try to be more general NFL, but the Giants, just a lot of Giants topics really took over this channel, and that's what it is now. But I always wanted it to be more general NFL. So that being said, we're going to start this podcast by saying welcome. Welcome to everybody that's joining in. Welcome everybody watching or listening. My name is KB, and this is the Undrafted Analysts podcast. We used to do this live, but now this is going to be pre-recorded and just by myself. Maybe we'll have guests on as things progress. But yeah, this is going to be, random NFL talk. So that being said, let's get right into it. I got a couple of topics here, but before that, I do want to show you guys something pretty awesome. And let's hope my camera actually stays on and stays recording for this, because it's had problems with me in the past. So I do want to show you guys something here. And if those of you guys are listening on audio, I apologize. But my sister, who is in the Marines right now, she sent me a little care package from Japan, where she is currently stationed at, and she loves it, by the way. It's where she wanted to go, but of course, working there kind of sucks, but she always wanted to go to Japan, just probably not in the way she would have expected. But she sent me this cup here, probably the coolest gift I've received in I don't know how long. It's a glass cup, looks like some kind of plexi, right? Because it's melted in with a bullet inside, and I guess it's a real bullet. I don't really be around bullets like that. I've shot bullets, but not with it not being shot already. So I don't really know if this is real, but it's pretty damn cool. She's also got me a keychain here, which is pretty damn cool as well. All the parts move, right? I got some real metal. It's a dragon. The wings move, the legs move, the head moves. It's pretty damn cool. And also, she's in Japan, so I told her to get me some Pokemon stuff, and she got me I believe it's Lucario, the Psychic Pokemon, one of the Pokemon I really loved as a kid. So that being said, I just wanted to show you guys that just cool things I got in that care package. Shout out to my sister doing her thing in Japan. So let's start off this podcast with some NFL talk. Well, we have some Giants talk as well, but I really wanted to talk some NFL talk, first, the general NFL. I want to start with the New York Jets. And one of the main topics we're going to talk about in this podcast is Eric Bieniemy. All right, Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs. I've been doing my little bit of research on Eric Bieniemy, and really has been becoming an intriguing name in the 2020 offseason, as he's going to be linked to a lot of teams coming up, and he's going to be a high commodity in the 2020 offseason. And he was a high commodity last year. He was, even interviewed with the New York Giants. Unfortunately for him, that Joe Judge took that position. But he was a guy that was linked to a lot of teams last year as well. But, I've been doing a lot of focusing on Eric Bieniemy and really liked what he brings to a lot of different teams. Now, I really want to focus on the New York Jets. Now, I think the Jets are going to benefit heavily and turn things around just about immediately, right? If they get rid of Adam Gase and get rid of Sam Darnold. But let me give a quick disclaimer here. I don't think Sam Darnold is that bad, but the thing is, I don't think Sam Darnold is that good to turn a franchise around. The Jets are in such a rock bottom place in their franchise that they need that spark to get them to the next level, to bring them back up to relevancy. I don't think Sam Darnold is the guy. Do I think Sam Darnold could start in the NFL? I absolutely think he can start in the NFL. I don't think Sam Darnold sucks, but he's just not a good fit with the New York Jets. The Jets need star talent, like franchise-changing talent, and that's why I think the Jets will benefit heavily from Trevor Lawrence and Eric Bieniemy. I think that duo there would be absolutely insane. The Jets are currently 0-13 right now after that heartbreaking loss to the Las Vegas Raiders. And you thought they were going to get their first win there, but Henry Ruggs really took that away. And it almost seemed like the Jets, because that was the worst call I've probably ever seen. I think anybody, even a 12-year-old that just plays Madden, would understand not to call that defensive call that Greg Williams made and play that prevent defense and don't allow anything behind you, right? Especially with Henry Ruggs on the other side. That's just common knowledge. So it seems like they were really trying to lose that game, but yet they fired Greg Williams. It doesn't make any sense to me, whatever, in that case. But the Jets are probably going to be the worst 0-16 team ever, right? They're going to be the third 0-16 team. If this keeps up, they're going to be the third 0-16 team in NFL history with the Jets and the Browns. So quite amazing company, if you ask me, right? The Jets and the Browns, and then the Jets. The Jets and the Browns and the Lions. Sorry, the Lions as well in 2007. So, they need a franchise-changing guy. And Trevor Lawrence, in my estimation, is that guy that can change a franchise just in the blink of an eye. Now, will it take some time? I think so. I don't think immediately he's going to take this team to the playoffs. But you have to eventually get there. Something like what Kyler Murray is right now to the Arizona Cardinals. But I think Trevor Lawrence could benefit, the Jets could benefit more with Trevor Lawrence in there. And with Eric Bieniemy, I think it's going to be a match made in heaven, just to start all over, right? To get rid of that, quarterback guru that Adam Gase is, right? And getting rid of Sam Darnold, I think you can get probably a decent pick for Sam Darnold, a third rounder or a fourth rounder. Unfortunately, not as decent as you would want from a former third overall pick, but I think you could probably get that kind of value out of Sam Darnold to start all over and to, bring Eric Bieniemy in the mix and then draft Trevor Lawrence. I mean, it will be a really good situation for Eric Bieniemy as well, for him to completely reset and pretty much build from the ground up. They have a couple of decent pieces in there. They're also coming away with a first-round pick from Seattle as well. With the Jamal Adams trade, they hit on some picks in the draft. Mekhi Becton seems to be working out. Denzel Mims, had some injury troubles in the beginning of his rookie campaign, but now is looking like he is the number one receiver, or potentially a number one receiver for the Jets. They need to get a running back. He's a former running backs coach. They need to get back to running the football. This guy, Eric Bieniemy, is a former NFL running back and running backs coach, so this guy knows all about the running game. So I think it's a pretty good fit for the Jets, and I feel like that's going to turn that franchise completely around. And I know they have some defensive problems as well, but I trust Eric Bieniemy coming from that, that Andy Reid coaching tree, that he'll get the right group of guys around him to help the Jets out a little bit. Now, I don't hate the Jets. I don't know why the Jets hate us. I guess because we're like the bigger brother in the rivalry, I guess. And I wouldn't even call it a rivalry. I guess we're just the bigger brother in the house, right? Because we share the MetLife Stadium. We're just a bigger brother, right? We have more relevancy right now. And I feel like the Jets are jealous of that. But I really don't hold any animosity to Jets fans or the Jets at all. I actually like when they improve. Like, I want to see a Jets Giants rivalry. I want to see us, face off in a potential Super Bowl, Snoopy Bowl, right? That would be pretty cool. So I think I would really like if Eric Bieniemy went to the New York Jets and Trevor Lawrence wound up being in there, and I think it will completely change their franchise around. Now, I want to shift the conversation now to just like Eric Bieniemy in general, of where he really fits in the NFL and how much of a high commodity this guy is going to be, because I'm telling you, teams are going to be calling him. You look at the top 3 teams that need a head coach right now. You look at the Atlanta Falcons. You look at the Detroit Lions, and you look at the New York Jets. Now, the Jets didn't fire Adam Gase yet, but you could pretty much say he's on his way out, right? And, what would benefit Eric Bieniemy more so than the actual teams involved? So let's start off with the Detroit Lions, right? And by the way, just a little backstory on Eric Bieniemy. He's probably going to be the most successful type of protege in the Andy Reid coaching tree. You've got your Doug Petersons out there, right? Yeah, Steve Spagnuolo, John Harbaugh is from the coaching tree as well. There's a couple of notable names in there in the Andy Reid coaching tree, but nothing that really jumps out at you besides John Harbaugh. But I'm talking about an offensive protege, right? Doug Peterson's probably the best of that. He won a Super Bowl, right? But we all see Doug Peterson's time in Philadelphia seems to be coming to a swift end pretty soon. And so when you talk about Eric Bieniemy, not only is he a protege of Andy Reid, I think he's more so like a disciple of Andy Reid, right? He's the one calling the plays in Kansas City. He has a huge part of Kansas City's offense right now, and Patrick Mahomes and development of him, and how Kansas City could pretty much run the ball. They're known for their air raid offense, but they run the ball really, really well because Eric Bieniemy was the running backs coach. You look at all the running backs that came and went in Kansas City, Jamal Charles, even smaller names like Charkandrick West and Spencer Ware. These are guys that were able to get it done. Damian Williams, Darrell Williams, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, right? Kareem Hunt, right? Who remembers Kareem Hunt on Kansas City? I mean, they had a really good running game over there in Kansas City ever since Eric Bieniemy was there. So you talk about running the football. Detroit really needs a guy that can run the football, right? They have something in DeAndre Swift. So I think Eric Bieniemy would want to hit that Detroit Lions job. And I think it's probably the most intriguing and interesting for Eric Bieniemy. I think he would want to go there because I know Matt Stafford is getting up there in age, but he is very, very capable if you want a win-now team and don't really necessarily want to rebuild from the ground up. Now, the Jets would be a team that Eric Bieniemy should go to if he wants to completely start off with a new quarterback, rebuild the team, build from the ground up, start from scratch, right? The Detroit Lions need some rebuilding as well, but it's a team that already has a franchise quarterback that's getting paid some good money and already has somewhat of a running back to help out with. I mean, that running game has been terrible ever since Barry Sanders left, and Barry Sanders hasn't played in the NFL in, 20 years. So Detroit always had an issue running the football, and Matt Stafford, in his entirety of his career, only had a couple of running backs to ever reach 100 yards in a game. I think maybe LeGarrette Blount did it in his time with Detroit, his very small stint with Detroit. I think he's done it. But I believe Kerryon Johnson and most notably DeAndre Swift, I think they've done it before. Maybe Adrian Peterson, but that's very recent. But you go back to like the Joik Bell days. You go back to I'm trying to think of the Reggie Bush days. The running game wasn't very successful over there in Detroit, and Matt Stafford really had a heart. He really had to depend on himself to move the ball downfield. And that's why I really like Matt Stafford. That's why I really think he could benefit from Eric Bieniemy. And I think Eric Bieniemy would find this job really, really attractive. But if you look at the Detroit Lions right now, in 60 seasons of their existence, they've only made 12 playoff appearances. And you know they're most notably known for their Thanksgiving days. Well, they aren't even in the winning column as far as their Thanksgiving games. They're on a 3-game losing streak right now, and that made them 3 games under 500 in Thanksgiving. They're 37, 40, and 1 in Thanksgiving, all right? They've had, in the past couple of years, they had a good stint with Thanksgiving, like demolishing the Eagles. That one year, they had a couple. I believe they were on like a 4-game winning streak prior to the 3-game losing streak. But they're still, a franchise that, in tradition, still suck at their own traditions. All right. 12 years ago, back in 2007, if I'm not mistaken, or 2008 or something like that, this team went 0-16. All right, and so they have that on their resume. Now, Eric Bieniemy is a former running backs coach. I mentioned that already. The Lions have a terrible running game just about all of Stafford's career. I already mentioned that. And then, adding Swift in there with Eric Bieniemy, I think can make the Detroit Lions an actual running team. Like, this can be a ground and pound team. It can completely help out Matt Stafford. And with the arm talent that Matt Stafford has, he can really, I guess, reserve that and run the football, and then throw it. He has the arm talent to throw any route, how deep, how close, it doesn't matter. I feel like that will be a really, really good job for Eric Bieniemy. I think he should really think about that job instead of the New York Jets. Now, the New York Jets I already talked about earlier. So I think the Jets really can benefit from Eric Bieniemy as well. You look at the quarterback situation there with the New York Jets. In the past 10 years or so, they're starting quarterbacks. This is just, I don't think I have everybody named here, but Sam Darnold, Joe Flacco, Josh McCown, Bryce Petty, Christian Hackenberg, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Trevor Siemian, Luke Falk, Geno Smith, Mark Sanchez, Michael Vick, and Greg McElroy. Oh my God. I mean, they need some stability over there with the New York Jets. And like I said, that's why I think Trevor Lawrence would benefit there as well. So, with that being said, we're going to, move away from Eric Bieniemy, but, I really had a lot of thinking to do as far as he goes, because I think he's like the biggest coaching candidate in the NFL coming up in this offseason. It's going to be very interesting in where he's going to go, because I honestly think he will change any team. He's going to help out any team that he goes to. I don't think he's going to be a flop whatsoever. Like I said, I think he's a legit disciple of Andy Reid, and I think he'll be a carbon copy of Andy Reid. And Andy Reid is one of the greatest minds in NFL history. So Eric Bieniemy will change a team around. And, like I mentioned, the Atlanta Falcons as well. Atlanta plays fast football, right? You think about all the players over there in Atlanta. They had Devontae Freeman days, Tevin Coleman. They've had some faster wide receivers like Taylor Gabriel. They have that Robert Gage guy, Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones. They've had Mohamed Sanu. They had a lot of speedy guys, right? Atlanta is really predicated on speed, especially on defense as well. A lot of speed going on in there, right? Deion Jones. You had Tack McKinley. You had Vic Beasley. You had Grady Jarrett. Like, these are all guys that play fast football, right? And you talk about an offense that is predicated on fast football. The Kansas City Chiefs, Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman, Sammy Watkins. And I think I'm missing another fast receiver in there as well that's not clicking right now. That Byron Pringle guy. They play a lot of fast football over there in Kansas City as well. So I think it'll be a good match for him in Atlanta as well. But shifting over from that, I do want to talk about Lamar Jackson, right? Lamar Jackson, and this has been a topic of mine for a very long time. As you guys know, I have a very, very small connection to Lamar Jackson. I went to, in my junior year, I lived in New York in my high school days, and I moved down to Florida back in 2013. And in 2013, I lived in West Palm Beach. West Palm Beach is pretty vast, right? Got a lot of schools, got a lot of areas. I lived in the Lantana area and went to school in Lake Worth. For those of you guys that know where Lake Worth is, it's in West Palm Beach, pretty much right next to the damn ocean. And, across the way, one of the rivals of Lake Worth Beach is Boynton Beach, and that is where Lamar Jackson went to high school. And now Lamar Jackson really got a lot of hype back in my high school days, and people were like starting to figure out who this guy really is. And he was an absolute beast, and he was making like highlight reels all over the place, and even my friends in PA knew who he was in Pennsylvania, and in New York knew who he was, and he was starting to get a lot of hype, and never thought, years later, never thought that same kid was Lamar Jackson. I didn't make the correlation whatsoever because I didn't know the guy's name. I didn't remember his name, but yeah, I guess I almost played against him, right? But I finished my junior year and I moved right after. So, that being said, I just got a small connection to Lamar Jackson, so I feel kind of connected to him in a way. But it doesn't mean I completely just utterly just disregard everything of Lamar Jackson. I really think he's one of the most confusing quarterbacks to really watch in the NFL. It's like you have to throw away everything you know about a quarterback position, like the whole quarterback position. Throw away everything you know about the position when you watch Lamar Jackson play, right? Because a lot of people think that he's so great at playing the position. I just think he's a fantastic athlete. And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, right? And I apologize how bad I look on camera right now because I just woke up. It's 12 at midnight. I have the day off on tomorrow, so might as well just go ahead and record a podcast. Sorry, my hair's all messed up. But Lamar Jackson, man, like I said, you have to throw away everything you know about the quarterback position when you watch Lamar Jackson play because he doesn't throw for a lot of yards, right? He doesn't. You watch his highlight film, and I keep coming out of focus here. You watch his highlight reel last year where he led the league in touchdowns, right? Get this. The guy led the league in passing touchdowns last year. But watch any highlight you see Lamar Jackson. There's like a 12-minute highlight of him throughout the whole season. I guarantee you there's like 2 touchdown passes there. You lead the league in touchdown passes, and you only have like 2 touchdown passes in your highlight reel because all of them were running plays. Like, for crying out loud, you didn't even see any passing plays in there. Forget about passing touchdowns. You didn't even see passing plays in this highlight reels. That tells you that he's more of an athlete than he is a quarterback, and I think his success in the NFL is hanging by a thread. I feel like with the league, when he came in the league, pretty much the only like real dual threat quarterbacks in the NFL were like Michael Vick and Russell Wilson. Maybe you could throw in a couple other guys in there that are athletic but not as great, right? Patrick Mahomes, one of those guys, Deshaun Watson. You can name a few guys out there, but a lot of them can really throw the football. Like Deshaun Watson throws the football really well. That's why I don't have a problem with him. Patrick Mahomes throws the football better than anybody. Michael Vick had problems, but he was like the first guy of his time. Michael Vick was, right. But now you're getting guys in the NFL that are already dual threat quarterbacks. Like you're getting more of those guys coming out of the NFL draft than ever before. Daniel Jones is a legitimate like dual threat quarterback. He's Vanilla Vic, right? Kyler Murray coming out, Josh Allen, Cam Newton. He's not a fast runner, but he's a runner. Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, like the list goes on and on and on with these guys that have legs. And I feel like it's now going to become a thing in NFL defenses, film rooms to game plan for a dual threat quarterback, because really in Michael Vick's days, you would only have to game plan and learn how to set contain on quarterbacks just for Michael Vick, because you really didn't see a lot of other dual threat quarterbacks out. You could throw out a couple of names out there to try to combat me, but it's nothing like we see now in the NFL. NFL defenses really didn't have to worry about that all the time of a quarterback getting out the pocket and making plays like that, right? And running, right? And running faster than you can, right? A lot of NFL defenders can't run as fast as Lamar Jackson, so that's a legit problem, or Michael Vick back in the day. Now it's becoming an actual thing where it's probably going to be a focal point in NFL defenses, film sessions and film rooms and game plans of how to stop a dual threat quarterback or a running quarterback. So I feel like now in the NFL that we're getting more of those type of quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson's success is going to be shut down. Like we're already seeing Lamar Jackson regress in the NFL. And as much as nobody wants to admit that, I feel like we're already seeing that. Now I'm not going to be on the whole cliff theory like Max Kellerman was with Tom Brady, how he's just going to fall off a cliff. I think it's going to be gradual. I think Lamar Jackson's going to continue to have success. But if you see Lamar Jackson, he doesn't have success through the air, right? He doesn't scare you through the air. I go back to that Los Angeles Chargers game all the time, right? He had like a 0 quarterback rating throughout the third quarter. And then he started to pick it up in the fourth and pad the stats. They still lost, right? They came back a little bit, but they still lost. And I guess you could say, oh, but he was a second-year player or whatever the case may be, right? Or he was a rookie at the time. I can't remember. But either way, I mean, he doesn't scare you through the air. You look at this last game with I believe it was the Cowboys, right? The Cowboys have one of the worst passing offenses in the NFL, or one of the worst defenses in the NFL. They decide to run it. Now, don't get me wrong. If your enemy, if your opponent, or the defense you're going against sucks at the run, go ahead and run it down their throats, right? They ran for 300 yards on the Cowboys. But Lamar Jackson, I just don't see his, I guess, advancement in throwing the football. He's in his third year right now, if I'm not mistaken. My camera keeps coming out of focus. He's in his third year right now, if I'm not mistaken, and he still doesn't seem like he knows how to throw the football complete. Like his throwing motion is weird. His trajectory is weird. He doesn't throw tight spirals. And it doesn't seem like he hits his receivers in stride. They always have to stop for the ball. They have to go behind for the ball. It doesn't seem like he helps his receivers out, and it doesn't seem like his receivers help him out. So I will acknowledge that. But Marquise Brown is just such a wasted talent there in Baltimore. I think he could be like if Marquise Brown was with the Chiefs, or Marquise Brown was like with the Falcons, right? I think he would have so much success in the NFL. But I've seen on a number of plays, Lamar Jackson just completely missing Marquise Brown. And Marquise Brown would probably have almost double the yards he has already if it wasn't for Lamar Jackson missing on those type of things. So call me crazy, but I think Lamar Jackson's success is hanging by a thread in the NFL. I think eventually teams are going to completely figure out how to stop a dual threat quarterback, keep him contained, and make him throw from the pocket, and he is going to struggle. He's going to absolutely struggle unless he pulls off a Michael Vick, goes to a new team, has a fresh start, and learns how to throw the football, and be under Andy Reid. I believe he was with Andy Reid at the time. Correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe Chip Kelly was already there. I think Chip Kelly was already there, but I think he got a little bit of Andy Reid. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Yeah, he did have Andy Reid there, I believe. So, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I keep going back and forth. But as far as that goes, unless Lamar Jackson really just takes the time to be a better passer, I think he's just going to continue to run and continue to try to get into success that way. I think defenses are going to game plan against that. So, call me crazy, but I think Lamar Jackson's time in the NFL is limited. I don't think he's going to be... I already think he's not a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Call me crazy, but I do not think he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Not even close. So, maybe close, but just because the success he gets in scoring points, not so much a quarterback position, but just a player, right? He's probably a top 10 player in the NFL. I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback. That may be a hot take. I don't know. I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Call me crazy. But I'm going to move on now to a next subject, and we're going to talk about the New York Giants and how I think Joe Judge is going to be one of the best quarterbacks in Giants history. Now, we've seen success in the NFL with the New York Giants as far as coaches go, right? You go back to your Bill Parcells days, you go back to your Tom Coughlin. Those are probably the most notable names out there because both of them share the total of Super Bowls the Giants have in the Super Bowl era. 2 amongst both of them respectively. And, you go through those two coaches and you kind of see the similarities there with Tom Coughlin, Bill Parcells, and even Joe Judge. It's tough love, tough football, hard hat mindset, get to work mindset, do your job type of mindset like Bill Belichick, right? And that's the coaching tree that Bill Belichick came from. He came from the Parcells coaching tree. So, you look at that and it all correlates together. And, one thing I've said on the Young Guns podcast was you look at the similarities of Tom Coughlin and Joe Judge with just them two. Tom Coughlin was also hated by the media of, the locker room is going to turn on him, and he's too hard on the players, and he's too hard-nosed, he's too much of a hard hat, and, this guy would never last in the NFL with these players. They're going to rebel against him. The team is turning on him, things like that. Michael Strahan, admittedly, on the Football Life Tom Coughlin documentary, admitted to saying he hated Tom Coughlin. His teammates hated Tom Coughlin. They all conspired to hate Tom Coughlin, but eventually he softened up and still was hard on the team, but kind of related with the players a little bit, and they wind up loving Tom Coughlin, and he is one of the most favorited and most beloved coaches in Giants history, and I everybody has a soft spot for Tom Coughlin, and especially his relationship with Eli Manning. And if you look at Joe Judge now, he's just as soon as Joe Judge was hired, he was already under the microscope because Eric Bieniemy wasn't hired ahead of him. And, Joe Judge coming out of nowhere, wide receivers coach, special teams coordinator, who the hell is this guy, right? And who the hell is this guy to be controlling the team the way he does? And Marcellus Wiley, although I really like Marcellus Wiley, had a really bad take and saying, oh, this team is going to, nobody's going to stand for that. And these are grown men you're talking about. And, nobody wants to be treated that way and all this stuff. Like they're making him, he's making the team go ahead and have harsh punishments on them. He's making them run laps, for crying out loud. Don't be a baby about it, So, everybody was saying, oh, and I think it was Emmanuel Acho as well, who was also on the show with Marcellus Wiley. I forgot what the name of their show is, but I tune in every once in a while. But Emmanuel Acho and says, you can't do that, and they're going to turn on him, and I bet they're already going to do that this year. It's not going to work. You give him a year, he's going to be out of there, right? Cowherd said the same thing, that it's a bad hire. Stephen A. Smith out here throwing the race card around, saying that, Eric Bieniemy wasn't hired because he was African American, and Joe Judge is white, and he, all this other crap. And Max Kellerman being Max Kellerman and being a complete traitor for the New York Giants, and all these things we hear in the media, about Joe Judge, and how that's quickly backfired, and how the mainstream media is now getting on the Joe Judge bandwagon and saying, oh, I like the fact that they were saying they were wrong about Joe Judge, but it really teaches you not to be assuming too much on a certain player and a certain person, and I have learned that as well. I freaked out with the Daniel Jones pick. I freaked out with the Joe Judge hiring as well, but I quickly, just because I'm a Giants fan, I guess, because I'm more involved in the Giants community, and I'm more involved in everything Giants, and I have more of a focus point on that. These media pundits and guys like that are focused on the general NFL aspect of things, so they're not really focused on the New York Giants. So it took them a while to really jump on the bandwagon. It took the Giants losing to Tampa Bay in primetime and also beating the Seattle Seahawks to really gain the attention of the media, and how Joe Judge has constructed this team. But if you look at everything Joe Judge has done, right? The players have embraced the whole softballs or tennis balls on the gloves of defensive backs, the running of the laps. I wasn't in so much agreement of the coaches running the laps, but I guess the coaches don't really mind, so I don't really mind. And Joe Judge really, relating with the players, that dive drill in the mud for fumbles, he did that. They love him for that. And, he had a bet with Evan Ingram because he's a Mississippi State guy. Evan Ingram's an Ole Miss guy, big Mississippi rivalry there. And Ole Miss won that game recently, and Joe Judge had to start his press conference wearing Ole Miss gear. So, he really, really has won this locker room. And I think, with the fight that you see in this team is nothing I've ever seen since Tom Coughlin. Like Ben McAdoo, that 11-5 team, Odell Beckham said it, and I'm not going to talk about the Odell Beckham in this podcast, but Odell Beckham said it. This team, that 2016 team was only good because of defense, right? Nobody really played for Ben McAdoo. They were just good players on that defense. And you overpaid for them, of course, but just decent players on that defense. But if you look at if you look at every team the Giants have had since Tom Coughlin, you don't really see anybody. They literally They literally whiffed on tackles. Like Janoris Jenkins in the Ben McAdoo days really whiffed on tackles and tried to lose games to get Ben McAdoo out of there, right? That's how much they really hated him. Pat Shurmur, we thought they really played for him, but and I think the players liked Pat Shurmur. He just didn't have that boom. He didn't have that fire. He couldn't get a team to run through a wall for him. Joe Judge is such a breath of fresh air. You know, if you look at the first press conference that Pat Shurmur had when he was hired, it was totally different than the first press conference that Joe Judge had when he was hired. Complete polar opposites. And so Joe Judge and the way he has his team fighting, like I said, is nothing I've ever seen before in a Giants team. I mean, this team on paper doesn't look that good, but they're still fighting in games. They still, hung with the best of them. They've only got blown out in one game, and that was the San Francisco 49ers game, in which it was a complete outlier, complete fluke. I mean, yes, the 49ers had basically their practice squad out there, right? But they had good depth and really, really good coaching. So that's something I mentioned before before that game happened. I thought we would lose because the 49ers had really good coaching involved in there and really good depth. But as of late, I mean, they love Joe Judge. Logan Ryan, his first year here, loves it here. Golden Tate, although he's had his problems here, and he got put in his place really well. He even got sat out for a game because he wasn't, all in one accord with this Giants vision, right? He loves this team. Dalvin Tomlinson loves this team, speaks highly about this team. Leonard Williams speaks highly about this team. These are all guys that are like new, right? Most of these guys are new. Sterling Shepard's the most tenured player on the team right now. So, all these guys speak very highly about this team. Jabril Peppers, I guess I said Logan Ryan already as well. They love Joe Judge. They love the New York Giants so far. So Joe Judge has his team fighting right now, and you can tell that this team is going to win a championship. I think it's set in stone. The New York Giants will win a championship. It all matters about when, and it all matters about how many championships they will win. But I think Joe Judge is going to be one of the best Giants coaches in NFL, in Giants history. So that's pretty much the podcast, guys. It went pretty long, I guess. I really had a good time talking about this. Hopefully, you guys had a good time talking about it as well. And if you're listening to this, tell me where you're listening from. Obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, comment. Watching on Spotify, I guess DM me or tweet me or take a screenshot and tag me in any social media that you're watching on, that you're listening on Spotify. But I hope you guys had a good time. And I had a good time. Hopefully we could do more of these, but it's just my time to vent. My time to vent about anything I think about in general NFL talk. So that being said, I'll see you guys in the next podcast. See you guys later.